My name is Gabrielle Rondou, and for my capstone, I planned out a 4-course meal. I made the whole thing for my family. It included bruschetta, salad, homemade pizza, and chocolate cake. First off, I made the pizza dough. In a bowl, I combined warm water, yeast, and sugar. I mixed it and then I let it stand for about 5 minutes till it foamed on top. Yeast feeds on sugar, which turns into food energy and releases carbon dioxide, and this is what makes the bread so spongy and soft. In a large bowl, I combined flour and salt and mixed it thoroughly. Then I added the yeast and water and sugar mixture and mixed it until it became dough. Most of the time, people use stand mixers and dough hooks, but I didn't have one, so I used my hands and a wooden spoon. I removed the dough from the bowl and kneaded it for a few minutes on a floured surface to prevent it from sticking. I placed the dough into a lightly olive-oiled bowl and let it rise for 30 minutes with a clean cloth covered on top of it. Then I moved on to the bruschetta. So here I'm adding all the ingredients into the bowl and I'm tossing them together and letting it marinate for about 30 minutes. Now for a more in-depth summary of my courses. So first off was the bruschetta, and we've actually never made one of these at home before, and I decided it would be a great idea to have one. We've usually had them in restaurants, but we've never actually made it at home, and it was quite easy, so I think we should do it more often. The second course is a fresh salad with apple, strawberries, and red onion, as well as feta cheese and sliced almonds, and I really enjoy having fruits in salads because it's a great way to get more vitamins and minerals into your body. For the main course, I wanted to make something a little bit more advanced, so I went with a homemade pizza. I've actually never made homemade pizza before, and it was quite fun, so I think I'd definitely do it again because it was actually so good. Several course meals are usually quite heavy, so I decided to do lighter toppings on the pizza to have room for dessert. The dessert I made was chocolate cake with strawberries, and it has been passed down through several generations of my family, but I've decided to add a chocolate drizzle, and the strawberries are not actually usually included, but I decided to add them on top because I think fresh fruit on chocolate cake is a great way to make it feel a little bit less rich and not too sweet. So here is the final product of the bruschetta, and it was actually so delicious, I'm definitely going to make it again. Now for the salad. In a medium bowl, I'm whisking together all the ingredients until they are completely incorporated. Initially, I didn't have honey in this dressing recipe, but I decided that it was a little bit too bitter, so I added 2 teaspoons of honey. I decided to make my own dressing because I wanted a really light salad dressing, because something like Caesar salad dressing, for example, would not be as good because it's very heavy and it's not the type of salad that I was going for in this project. So I'm glad I made this dressing because it was very yummy. I previously chopped an apple, strawberries, and half a red onion, and now I'm combining all the ingredients into a large bowl. After that, I added in the salad dressing when it was ready to eat, and we were ready for the second course, and it was delicious. So I chose to do this topic because I wanted to get a better understanding of cooking. I wanted to improve my skills and make something that requires a lot of time and effort, and I thought that this project was the perfect way because I find it really interesting and fun and enjoyable to cook. I did most of my research in cookbooks, as well as I looked up on some websites online, and I actually watched some YouTube videos of how to knead dough, for example. For contacting help, I asked my mom to help film for a couple of clips, but other than that, I did everything on my own, including all of the cleanup. Now it was time for the pizza, so I already preheated my oven, and then I wanted to stretch out my dough and form it into the shape of a pizza. I then spread the sauce over it and layered it with first half a cup of Parmesan cheese and then prosciutto. Pear was next, and then arugula. I topped it with the remaining Parmesan cheese and then added feta cheese as well. I placed the pizza in a pan and that was lightly sprinkled with cornmeal to prevent it from sticking on the bottom, which is something that I actually learned in cafeteria class with Mr. Dub. I baked it on the center rack, and it took about 10 to 12 minutes. Then I cut it into small squares and added fresh arugula on top. The steps involved with the whole capstone project were first research, menu planning, writing out the recipes, checking the ingredients in the kitchen, making a shopping list, going shopping, unloading the groceries, and setting up my workspace and my camera to film. So I made the chocolate cake, and then I cleaned the whole kitchen. The next day, I started on the bread dough, and as it was rising, I started on the bruschetta, and then I made the salad and the dressing and set it aside. I finished preparing all the pizzas, and then I served the bruschetta as the first course, then the salad, and I put the pizzas in the oven while we were eating the salad. We ate the pizza and then waited half an hour before eating the chocolate cake. Now I'm starting with the chocolate cake. This I made the day before because it would be a lot of cooking in one day. And I'm starting off with greasing the pan with some butter and then flouring it. And unfortunately, I should have done a little bit more because my cake actually ended up sticking to the pan and falling apart a little bit, but I managed to salvage it. Now I'm adding in all my dry ingredients, which was granulated sugar, flour, unsweetened cocoa, baking powder, baking soda, and salt. And then after that, I grabbed 2 eggs, cracked them into the bowl, milk, olive oil, vanilla extract, and I added a little bit too much, but who doesn't love a little extra vanilla? Then I added boiling water as well and mixed it all up. Initially, I started whisking it by hand, and then I moved on to my electric mixer. Overall, the highlight of my project was seeing my family's reaction after they ate it all. They said it was the best bruschetta they've ever had and the best homemade pizza they've ever had as well. What I found challenging was filming the project because here some of my clips are kind of out of frame. Unfortunately, because my camera kept slipping, I actually had it taped on the top of a door. Adding all the clips together as well as filming the voiceover was very tedious because I wanted it all to fit in the frame and look good as well as sound good because I tend to stumble over my words. My most proud of thing was my pizza for sure because the final product of it came out so wonderfully and we added it to my mom's recipe book because it was so delicious. Here I'm evenly adding my cake batter into my pans that were previously greased, and then I moved on to whipping up the butter, and unfortunately I actually broke my mixer because the butter was cold and I didn't realize how strong it was, but it actually broke the mixer, so I had to make all of the icing by hand, which took a lot of work. So I learned a very valuable lesson not to use cold butter when using a mixer. Make sure it's warm temperature. Now I'm adding in my vanilla, powdered sugar, and milk and mixing it until it's all whipped and fluffy. If I could do this project again, I would do it the exact same because it was so good and everyone enjoyed it so much, and I've made lots of experience in the kitchen and learned a lot of things. Here I chopped up some strawberries to put onto the cake and I started assembling the cake. So here's my first layer and I added my fluffy icing on top, and this layer kind of fell apart, but I managed to fix it a little bit. So I added my icing, smoothed it out, and then added strawberries on top, and then I put another layer of cake. This one turned out a little bit better. Added more icing, and then I put on my ganache, and this ganache was actually really good. Then I added a little design with my strawberries, and the cake was actually a really good hit. It was so delicious, and everyone really enjoyed it. Overall, I'd like to thank my mom, Gabrielle Rondou, for paying for the ingredients as well as helping me film. Thank you for listening to my capstone.